Here we go again.
Let's get ready for takeoff!
And we are back on the road to glory. We have made it. It is officially game week. Week zero is upon us, and we are here to break it all down. But before we get into that, we will make our conference championship predictions and our playoff predictions as well. To do that with me is your usual co-host, Steph. What's the vibes? How you doing today, bro? Welcome back to the show. You're muted. You're,
Great, man. Just another day close to the season getting here. You feel me? So I'm just ready for it to be here, and we getting one of our last preseason episodes in. Week zero is this weekend, so and Bob's is just real good right now.
yes, they are. Yes, they are. What we like 4 days away, 5 days away from some college football. Um, but yeah, man, if you like Steph just mentioned, this is our last preseason episode. If you haven't listened to any of our other preseason episodes, make sure to go check them out. We have episodes back on the House versus NCAA settlements. We have tier lists for all four Power Four conferences. Um, we talked about the new revenue sharing. We talked about Nico's drama this off season. So yeah, a bunch of shows. So make sure if you haven't checked those out, you go back and support us. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, Steph, let's get into it. Let's talk about these conference predictions, um, and then we'll lead that into our playoff predictions, and then maybe if we want to get a little spicy, we could talk some Heisman towards the end and stuff like that. But um, you want to start?
Which conference you want to start with?
Right. Let's start off at the top with the Big Ten, the conference that won the Natty last year, the conference that your Ducks play in, so a little bit close to your heart. Talk to me. How you feeling about the Big Ten? How do you think it shakes up and plays out?
I think that the Big Ten championship is going to be Ohio State versus Penn State. And honestly, I think Ohio
Mm.
State's going to win, man. I know there's a lot of new pieces on both sides of the ball with this team, but they still got the two best players in college football. I think they might even run the table. Because they played Penn State in the regular season, right? So maybe they lose the first one and win the second one in the rematch, or they just win both of them. Honestly, like we know how it is when it comes to Penn State and Ohio State. They can never beat them. Um, so I feel like even if Penn State were to beat Oregon this year, they're still gonna have that um, on their record. You feel me? Like it's just gonna be the same story. Like okay, you beat Oregon, but can you beat Ohio State? And they got to go to Ohio State, so that game is gonna be tough. I think Ohio State is gonna get it done and win the conference.
Um, I like that. I mean, that's a pretty safe bet. Um, Obviously, the reigning Big Ten champion, not Big Ten champions, the reigning champions, national champions. So I can see why you went ahead and went with them. I also did have Penn State um, in my uh, Big Ten championship game, but I have them going against your Ducks, Oregon, and I have Penn State actually taking that game and finally getting over the hump and winning this conference. Um, we kind of talked about it during our Big Ten tier list, and when we talked about Penn State, I mean, this is just a team that consistently, like you mentioned, year after year, just can't get over the hump, can't beat the big teams, can't win the games that actually matter. Not that every game doesn't matter, but I think this is the year that Penn State finally gets it done. They return so much; they're so experienced at such key positions too, um, and I think they have that much of an advantage over the rest of this conference. I think Oregon and Ohio State have some question marks, have some guys that went on to the NFL, have some guys that hit the portal now that they're going to have to replace. And obviously, Oregon and Ohio State both recruit at an incredibly high level. So I don't think either of those two teams should have an issue with replacing the talent or replacing the production. But preseason wise, I feel more comfortable with Penn State based on what I've seen from them last year, and then based on what they're coming back into the season with this year. Now, I think it is incredibly close between the top three, and I think any combination of these three could wind up in this Big Ten championship game. I think you're kind of splitting hairs at this point. Um, I could see, like you said, Ohio State winning it. I could see Oregon winning it over either Penn State or Ohio State this year. So I think any one of these three teams is a good choice. Real quick to run through the odds, Ohio State does have the highest odds, currently at plus 190 to win the conference. Penn State is a close second at plus 220, and there's a small gap where between Oregon at third place at plus 460 to win the conference, and then after that, the next closest would be Michigan at plus 950. Um, I think USC is a little bit of a sleeper team for me. I almost wanted to put them in the playoffs. Spoiler, I didn't put them in my playoffs, but I feel like USC could be a team that's dangerous, that competes this year. And again, your Michigans, your Indianas, your Illinois, I think those are some teams as well that you should be on the lookout for. But I think the trio, you're right, Penn State, Ohio State, or Oregon. I went with Penn State. Steph, you went with Ohio State. Let's move
Well,
on.
I
But
do have a question. Well, not a
yeah,
question, but I think you make a good point um, about Ohio State. And my biggest thing with them is how much of a drop off is there going to be losing Chip Kelly? I feel like that is going to be the biggest thing with them. It is the first time Brian Hartline is going to be calling plays. You know, we talked a little bit about that situation before, but you know, I feel like if you think Penn State is going to win, I think that would be the main thing that would make me pick Penn State because I do get what you're saying about the returning talent and all this and that, but Penn State just hasn't really been able to win a big game.
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. Have they even last year? Did they win a game where they didn't have a significant talent advantage?
no, they didn't.
Because you even look at the playoffs where they got to semis, but they lost to Notre Dame, which Notre Dame matches them in terms of talent. I mean, they beat SMU. They recruit way better than SMU. They beat Boise State. They obviously recruit way better than Boise State. They lost the Big Ten championship against Oregon. They lost to Ohio State regular season. I mean, I just don't trust this team until I see it. I have to see it. Now, if they do that this year, I'll come different next year. Maybe I'll pick Penn State next year preseason, but I gotta see it, and I just haven't seen it since 2016. So
Right.
that was a long time, and that was a different era.
Yeah, and I think that's completely fair. I just tend to when it comes to college football, I trust the backfields. Whoever has the best backfields are usually the teams that I like to go for, lean on. I think Penn State when it comes to the Big Ten with Drew Allar, back there with Nick Singleton or Katron Allen, I trust those guys back there over right now what Ohio State and Oregon are gonna run out week one. Now again, like I mentioned, this could be a different conversation week 13 or week 10 as the season develops, as these players gain more experience, get better or worse. We'll see. Let's move on to the SEC. Before, Steph, you make your prediction, I'll run through the odds real quick. Texas is the odds on favorite currently, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. They're plus 280 to win the conference, and Georgia is right behind them uh, with the second best odds at plus 290. Then there's a small gap uh, at between Alabama at third, plus 470, and then another small gap before LSU is their fourth best odds at plus 600. After that, it's a pretty steep drop off. I think Texas A&M is fifth best odds at plus 1400, and um, so on and so forth. So, Steph, go ahead and give us your SEC Conference Championship game and its winner.
Now, I was struggling with this one a lot
Me
because
too. Me too.
I really feel like there's three teams you got to look at um, regarding this. But man, like this, and I still don't even know. I like right
Do you
now.
want
I
me to
don't know
go?
if I want it. Huh?
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first because I really feel like I'm gonna change my mind at the last second. But you could go
Okay,
ahead.
because I'm with you. I really had a hard time going making this prediction. Um, did Georgia win the conference with three losses last year?
Um, they did lose to Ole Miss. I don't think they lost three games. I think they lost two because they lost to Alabama. I think that was it. They should have
Lost to
lost
Ole
to y'all.
Miss. Should have lost to us. Okay, well, I think if you think back to last year, a lot of people will tell you that the SEC was down, and while I think that could
I
be
will tell you
true,
that too.
I think while that could be true to an extent, I think a lot of that was because the SEC was kind of just beating each other up a lot. I think for the first time we really saw um, that depth really shine through at all levels. It wasn't just Georgia and Alabama beating on everybody. Everybody was beating on each other. Pause, and it made for a really exciting SEC league schedule. And I think we're going to get a lot of the same because I think we have, if just as much, if not as many questions. We talked about it during the SEC tier list. All these teams that we put in the S tier, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, all starting brand new quarterbacks this year. Um, so who really knows how that's going to go? And the two, Alabama and Georgia's quarterbacks, aren't really that high profile. I mean, they're both 4 or 5 star guys out of high school, but at this point in their careers, that all is gone. You know what I mean? The most high profile
Hmm.
guy out of our top tier teams, out of our S tier teams, is Arch Manning, um, and so it it was difficult. I mean, I'll tell you flat out, I almost had my SEC championship game be Florida versus Oklahoma. I was close. That was a thought that ran through my head,
Wait, what was the
and
thought that ran through your head? Hold up.
Florida and Oklahoma in the SEC
Oh,
championship
get the
game.
hell out of here, bro.
But no,
You
obviously,
on
I
some
decided
you being a homer right now.
no, I decided not. I decided not to do that. But again, I just mentioned it when we were talking about the Big Ten. I believe that the teams in college football with the best backfields usually are going to have the best seasons. Oklahoma and Florida have two of the top three quarterbacks in this league, John Batier and DJ Lagway. Then Jaden Knott is one of the best running backs in the country. Same with Jaden Ball. So I really think both of those teams are going to be really good. So much so that I'm doing it. I took Florida to win the SEC. I got them beating Texas. Um, I didn't like I said I'm not going to put Oklahoma in there, even though I kind of want to because I think Oklahoma could beat Texas too. Just how that schedule lines up for Texas is just they play Florida and Oklahoma back to back. They get a bye week before Florida, but they got to go on the road to Florida and then they play Oklahoma the week right after. So even if they do beat Florida, the high likelihood of a hangover loss to Oklahoma, I think, is very likely. So I think Texas is going to lose a game or two. I think Alabama and Georgia, I'm higher on Alabama than I am on Georgia. I think Alabama is a team that could definitely play in this SEC championship game. I think most people will probably pick Texas and Alabama instead of throwing Florida in there, which I think obviously is completely fine. Um, but I don't think Georgia, I don't think much of Georgia this year. Obviously, they're the best program in the country, but I don't think that means that they're the best team in the country this year. Um, LSU, we talked about LSU. I'm not high on LSU. I think South Carolina is another team like Alabama that can throw a wrench into this, but I really do think, I wasn't talking greasy enough when we did the SEC tier list, man. Florida, we are going to win the SEC this year. We're going to beat Texas at home. We're going to beat Georgia. We're going to beat Miami on the road. LSU on the road, that makes me nervous. A&M on the road also makes me nervous. But we're gonna beat Ole Miss. We're gonna beat Tennessee. We're gonna beat Kentucky. We have the best. We have the best O line in the conference. We have the best edge rusher unit in the conference. When DJ Lagway is healthy, he's the best quarterback in the conference. We have the best running back room in the conference. We have the best wide receiver room in the conference. We have the best cornerback room in the conference. We have the best linebacker room in the conference. Florida has the best roster in the conference today. They just have Billy Napier coaching.
I was about to say you got a
So
doofus
that
head coach.
that makes me nervous as hell, and that obviously is probably gonna be the reason this pick blows up in my face. But I really do feel confident about this Florida roster, and if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, yeah, I talk my cash, but I'm also very real about the Gators, and I have been. And last year I said I think they win 8 games, and they did. And this year, I think Florida wins 10, 11 games. I genuinely do. I think everybody's talking about the schedule and the strength of the schedule, but no one's talking about the strength of the Gators. Like these teams have to play Florida. Like Texas, their trenches make me nervous. Outside of Texas, I don't see anybody else that could bully Florida when it comes to the front seven, when it comes to our offensive line. And so line it up. That's how I feel. So I got Florida over Texas. If you want to take Texas over Florida, that's fair as well. Like I said, I think Alabama and South Carolina could also be in that mix. Steph, now that you've heard me go for my hot take, it should make your take much easier to decide now.
I'm going Texas and Alabama with Texas
Texas
winning.
over Alabama? Okay.
Yes, sir. Texas beating Alabama. I think both of the teams are going to be really good this year. Obviously, they both have question marks at quarterback. I think Alabama is going to be way better than last year. I think their defense is going to be
Yep.
better. They get Ryan
Yep.
Grubb back with Kalen DeBoer. Their offense
Yep.
should be better. Obviously, we know
How you feel
Jalen
about Ty?
Milroe. I don't really know how I feel about him, but I think that he's going to do what he needs to do within that offense. I think that Jalen Milroe just wasn't really able to be good enough of a passer last year. I think they're not really going to rely on quarterback run as much. I know Jam Miller just got injured. Um, so I think that Ty Simpson's going to be able to deliver the ball to another year with Ryan Williams, one of the best receivers in the country. And I just think that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb probably one of the best coaching duos, and he shouldn't have even left and tried to go to the NFL. In my opinion, I think sometimes you gotta understand, when something ain't broke, don't fix it. You get what I'm saying? So they've had a great run at Washington. You look at how they improve year over year after they're over there in Washington, and coming over to Alabama, they went 9-4. Losing that bowl game. I think this year they probably gonna be 10-2 or better. Like I said, I just think that this team isn't going to have the glaring flaws that it did last year. So, I think that they're probably going to beat Georgia, maybe, maybe not. But I think they're going to have a good record. I'm not really worried about them. And same thing with Texas, just another year with Coach Sark and that culture. And you look at how they've improved year after year. I mean, what they went 5-7, and they went 8-4, 11-2. So I'm just looking at Texas to be, finally do what they're supposed to do. I don't know if they're gonna win the national championship, but I think they're gonna get it done this year, man. And Georgia, I don't. And the reason why I don't have Georgia, because those were the three teams I was picking between to go to the SEC title game. And
Hmm.
the reason why I don't have Georgia is because we don't really know how Gunnar Stockton is going to be. I mean, he's an older guy. He's really only played like 1.5 games, and they lost the other game where he played the whole time. Um, I know they got Zach Branch coming in at wide receiver. They have had crazy drop problems last year, so they'll probably be better in that regard. But I don't know. Like I just don't think that they are going to have the super dominant defense that they've had. Going back to 2021 and 2022, and it's just a different time, man. A lot of these guys aren't sticking around to where you're going to have the depth that they've had in the past, and just the super legendary defenses that they've had in the past. And I think when you have a guy like Stetson Bennett, who was really a playmaker, like he was a really good college quarterback, I don't know if they're really gonna have that going forward. You know, there's nobody like um what's the tight end's name? Brock Bowers. There's nobody like him on the team no more. I think Carson Beck, you know, if he was coming back and healthy, I would probably be more confident because, like I said, yeah, it looked a little bit bad last year, but they've had so many drops. You know, there was that one play where there was like they threw like a 50-yard bomb. There's nobody around the wide receiver drop. Like that right there can't happen when you're playing against other top ranked teams. It might get you by, you know, a lot of the lower teams on your schedule, but look what happened against Ole Miss. Like that team was a talented team, so you gotta be on your A game when you're playing against these other teams. I mean, Georgia, they gotta play Florida. Florida, we're looking at Florida to make that jump. Um, I personally don't have them making the NCC title game, but they could still make an at-large playoff spot. You get what I'm saying? So I just can't really trust Georgia right now. You know, obviously this is preseason. You know, we get to week 6, week 7. You know, middle of the year. You know, they might have beaten Bama and they might be the number one team in the country or number one in the SEC. So obviously they could change. But yeah, right now I'm going Bama, Texas. Texas winning, and yeah, and being the SEC champions.
I have my thing with Alabama, and I think this is a hot take, or maybe not a hot take, but a take in general, is I think uh, the starting quarterback week 1 is not going to be the same starting quarterback week 13. I don't think
Okay.
Ty Simpson. I don't think Ty Simpson is going to make it through the season as a
So
starting
you
quarterback.
think Austin Mack's gonna be in there?
Yeah, I think either Austin Mack or Keelan Russell, the true freshman. I think he's just as talented. I think one of those two guys is eventually going to overtake um, this Ty Simpson guy because
That's fair.
I just kind of similar to what's Buddy's name that played at Oregon for all those years,
Ty
and then
Thompson.
Ty Thompson. It just reminds me of that Ty Thompson situation, man. A highly recruited guy, but just a guy that continued year after year to just continue to get passed over and passed over. Even if a transfer came in, would just pass over him on the depth chart. And yeah, now he waited
Right.
his turn and he's the best of the bunch. But is he the best of the bunch? I don't think so. I think he's just the oldest. He's been in the system the longest, and so they have the most trust in him. I mean, Austin Mack is still only a sophomore, I believe. And then, like I mentioned, Keelan Russell, their only other option is a true freshman. You're not keen on playing a true freshman in the SEC week 1. Um, so I think that's the best decision for Alabama right now. And I believe that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb believe in themselves enough to, take a quarterback that may not be as talented and make sure that, he can get the job done. So maybe Ty Thompson is just a game manager. Ty Simpson is a game manager, and he's able to, make it through the year. But I, I don't think so. I truly don't. Um, so that's what's holding me back on Alabama a little bit. I mean, I think they're still good enough to make the playoffs. A little bit of a spoiler. I still do have Alabama in my playoff bracket, um, but yeah, we both do agree on Texas being in the SEC. So that's again, we both agree with Penn State. We both agree with Texas. So let's move on though to the ACC. I feel like this conference is not as up in the air as maybe it was last year. I think Clemson is clearly the number one team, and is clearly my pick to win the ACC. According to the odds, they're the odds-on favorite at plus 105. Um, Miami is second at plus 380, and then there's a huge gap between the third and the fourth best on odds. Louisville plus 750, and then SMU plus 900. So yeah, it's pretty simple to me. I think it's going to be Clemson and Miami here in the ACC championship game. I think Clemson does beat Miami. Um, I think this is probably the most complete team Miami has had under Mario Cristobal. Obviously, they lost Cam Ward, number one overall pick. Carson Beck is no Cam Ward, but I do think Carson Beck will be experienced enough. I think he will be good enough to kind of steady the ship and get this talented Miami roster to the title game. Now, again, I don't think Miami goes and gets their first ACC title in their history, but um, I do think they put together a pretty solid season. I think Clemson, though, and I feel like I say this every year. I think this is the year, man. They really, similar to Penn State, bringing back a bunch of dudes that played on their playoff roster last year, bunch of experience, and a bunch of talent. They got a great coach who's done it before. Can you please not make me look stupid? I think I will officially be all I said it last year that I'm officially off Clemson, but I think I will officially be off Clemson if they don't at least get to the semis this year.
They do have a lot of players coming back and a lot of talent. So
I know a lot of people are expecting Cade Klubnik to be in that Heisman race too. So if he's going to have a
right,
Heisman type season, I think they'll definitely be one of the top teams in the country, without a shadow of a
absolutely.
doubt. So
I
go
differ
ahead,
from
Steph.
you
Give us
a little
your
bit.
right. Okay.
And this might spoil my playoff bracket a tiny bit, but I got Clemson and SMU repeating in the ACC title game
Okay.
with Clemson winning. I just can't trust Miami. Miami,
Right.
you know, under Mario Cristobal, they always figure out how to lose a dumb game. I don't think they got better at quarterback. I mean, it's hard to get better than what Cam Ward was last year, but I just worry about the health of Carson Beck. I mean, he was injured all spring, got there late, only has fall camp to build that chemistry, build the timing, and work with these wide receivers. I know they got talent. I know they probably should be better than SMU and be up there with Clemson in this conference. I think they should that they like on paper they should be in the conference title game and make the playoffs. But I just don't trust them. They always figure out how to stumble. In one dumb game that ruins the whole season. So yeah, I don't have Miami making the conference title game in the ACC. I got Clemson, SMU, Clemson winning, and yeah, there it is. That's my pick for the ACC.
All right. Let's move on then to the final Power Four conference, the Big 12, America's Conference, one of our favorite conferences to cover and to follow. Kansas State, Utah, and Arizona State are all tied at the top of the odds, according to FanDuel, at plus 550. And Baylor and Texas Tech are right behind those three teams with plus 650 odds. And even TCU is hanging around there with plus 850. Steph, this is a wild conference. Feels like any year, any team can win it. Last year, literally, I think until like the final 2 weeks, there were still like 6 teams, something like that, in the running to win this conference. It'll probably be similar this year. Do your best, make your pick. Who do you got in the Big 12 championship game, and who do you have winning that conference?
Um, I got Arizona State and Utah going to the Big 12 championship game, and I got Utah winning that game. I think they are actually going to have a competent quarterback. The Cam Rising saga is over. I think Devin Dampier is going to be a really good player for them. And we know what type of team Utah is going to be. They're going to be tough. They're going to hit you in the mouth. They're going to play defense. And I think it's just a different style than most Big 12 teams are. And yeah, like we've seen that Kyle Whittingham is a winner. I mean, he can make something out of nothing too. I mean, we've seen the coaching jobs that he's done when outgunned and severely outgunned. Still figuring out how to win games that you probably shouldn't. So I think they're going to be consistent in a league that's inconsistent. And I say the same thing about Arizona State, man. Like I trust Coach Dillingham to have this team play well week in and week out. You know, um, I don't like Texas Tech. They have a lot of good players, but at quarterback, are they better than anybody really? Like, where does Texas Tech's quarterback rank in the Big 12?
Right.
I would say he's probably in the middle somewhere. Like
Yeah.
I like Sam Levitt better. I think Devin Dampier is better. I think that Caden Salter is better. Um, I'm trying to think who else.
Iowa State's quarterback, what's buddy's name? Rocco Beck.
Yeah, I think and Iowa State's another team that's up there for me as well. But even like Baylor, like you got Josh Hoover, like what I'm saying, like
Right.
Baylor, and I'm not saying Baylor's quarterback, but I think as a team, Baylor Um, they're going to be solid. Kansas State's going to be solid. I think there's a lot of teams that can be in the mix. Obviously, it's the Big 12 we're talking about, but I think the two best coaches in the conference are Kenny Dillingham and Kyle Whittingham, and I think they're gonna have their teams ready to play week in and week out and not lose that dumb game. That's one thing I gotta say about both them coaches. They're not gonna have their team losing a game they shouldn't. So yeah, I just trust them to make it, and I got Utah winning that. I know I'm kind of trusting Utah, but you know, I think I can trust Utah as long as they don't have any debacles going on.
All right. For me, I also have Arizona State in my Big 12 championship game, but I got them going against Iowa State. Like I said, way back during our Big 12 prediction, I think Iowa State is an S tier team in that conference. They're similar to a few of the other teams I mentioned already, just super, super experienced, just bringing back a bunch of talent from that team that won 11 games last year, that in the Big played in the Big 12 chip last year.
Last year, yeah, it was it
Yeah,
was
they
it
lost
was
to
Iowa
Arizona
State.
State. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be a repeat of last year's game, Arizona State versus Iowa State, and I think Arizona State is going to win again. I think right now Arizona State has the best coach in this conference right now. Um, just the way he has his team believing in themselves, the way he has the program believing in itself. Um, I'm just believing the hype. I'm just buying the hype when it comes to Arizona State. I think they're going to build on what they did last year and go back to back in their first 2 years in the Big 12. But I think Iowa State has a good chance to stop that. Um, they're going to be a good team. So, real quick, Steph,
Hmm.
we had we had different answers on all four conferences, but we both agreed on one team in each conference. So, low key, we predicted both Penn State, we had both Texas, we had both Clemson, and we had both Arizona State.
Hmm.
So, if you're looking for our combined predictions, you could probably take those four teams right there and throw that as a road to glory prediction, combined prediction there. But let's get into our playoff brackets then. Um, let's first run through our seeds 1 through 12, and then we'll break it down and talk about how we see each of our respective brackets playing out and eventually name our champion. Um, I'll start off with my number one seed being my Big Ten champion, Penn State. Two seed being the ACC champion, Clemson. My three seed being the SEC champion, Florida. And my four seed being Notre Dame. Um, then 5 through 12 goes as Texas as my five, Oregon as my six, Alabama as my seven, and Ohio State as my eight. At my ninth seed, I got two teams here because I couldn't decide. I got Oklahoma and I got South Carolina. I think one of those two teams is going to play its way into an at-large bid and be the fourth SEC team. I think South Carolina was so close last year. Returning Lenore Sellers um, should have a really good defense. I think they have a great shot, especially with their schedule. And then Oklahoma, like I mentioned, um, John Mateer, he could be the best quarterback in the conference at the end of the year. And whichever team has the best quarterback, I believe, has a good chance to, win a lot of games. Um, Miami sneaks in at number 10. Last year, I was kind of surprised that they put both ACC teams in, but I think that's something that we're going to get from now on. So I do think Miami is going to get a spot there.
Who
So I
was
got
your
them at
12?
10. Huh?
Who was your 12?
I didn't get to 12 yet.
Oh, okay.
Arizona State is my 11 seed, the Big 12 champion, and then my 12 is my G5 team, my G5 champ, and I am going with UNLV, the
Ooh,
fighting,
interesting.
the fighting Dan Mullins. Um, I think this is a great spot for Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen was okay at Florida. I think people forget we were in the SEC championship game. I mean, we lost by 6 points to Alabama in the SEC championship game in 2020. Dan Mullen's final year that he was really checked in. That guy, he can coach the hell out of an
That was
offense.
COVID though. I don't trust that.
No,
That was the
for
same
sure.
year Texas A&M went 10-0 or
I mean, we
whatever.
went 8-4 that year though. That's the thing. We lost hella games that year, so it wasn't like we were some undefeated fluke team. Like I don't even know how we made the conference. We beat Georgia. We waxed Georgia. That's and it was SC East versus the SC West back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's how we did it. But anyways, um, shoot, what was the point that I was making?
You were talking
Oh,
about
UNLV, Dan Mullen. I think really the issue with Dan Mullen was just the expectations at Florida. Dan Mullen is a very laid back kind of coach in the offseason. He likes to go surfing and wakeboard, you know. The infamous quote that kind of got him fired, or when it really got fired, is I think it was like a week 10 game. We had lost to Missouri, and they had kind of asked Dan Mullen about recruiting, and Dan Mullen basically said, we don't recruit during the season. And
Oh
as
my
you can,
goodness.
yeah, exactly. Um, Now, obviously, he was mad after a loss. I'm sure Florida did recruit during the season, but that's just not a good look. And I think it kind of showed. I mean, just in Florida's recruiting classes under Dan Mullen. Now at UNLV, they're not really expected, you know, to compete at a national level. No one expects him to have a top 25 class every year, but because he's such a good coach, because he has the resume that he has, I think he is going to be able to raise that ceiling of UNLV. I think he's going to be able to out scheme a lot of those G5 defensive coordinators and teams in general. And I think UNLV is going to obtain what they were so close to obtaining last year, and that's a playoff berth.
Yeah, man, I like that take a lot, honestly.
Thanks.
Um, if you look at the Mountain West, it's really just between them and Boise
Boise,
a lot of
yeah.
times, and I
I
think
think Boise
Boise's
has a
going
good
to take a
chance as
step
well
back.
to
They
make the
do have a
playoffs
good chance. They do have a good chance. They're gonna be a major player
for
in
sure.
that conference race. But I'm not mad at that take. UNLV has a lot of talented players, and
They got a great portal hall.
right. So I think that my question is whether they're gonna look like at quarterback. I mean, I know they got Alex Orgy over
Alex
there, but
Orgy, right?
we know he can't throw at all. So
True, but Dan
I
Mullen's a
just,
bit of a quarterback whisperer. I mean, he
okay.
made Emory Jones look good for a little bit.
Right, right, and this is a G5,
Exactly.
schedule. They are going down the level, so and they can only play Boise one time during the regular season, so they can still end up with an 11-1 record and then win the conference. So,
Yep.
um, I think that's a good pick, especially
Yeah.
for your G5 pick. So yeah, I'll go through. I'll start mine, and we can compare them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So at number one, I got Ohio State. No question there. If you just heard
Yep.
my conference pick, I think that they are going to, beat Penn State, whether they lose to them regular season or not. They're gonna win the conference. I think that locks them at the number one seed. Um, at number two, I got Texas. You know, SEC winner. Like I said, I think
Yep.
that locks them at number two. And number three, I got Alabama.
Right.
I think Alabama is another team that could be up there because if they have another good record, make the SEC title game, maybe even if they lose that, um, if they end up being 11-2, I think that they could still be a top
Arguable
four
for sure.
ranked team. And then I got Penn State at number four, which is you know Big Ten championship loser.
Yes.
They should still have like an 11-1
So your
type
top
of
four is
regular
basically
season.
just the SEC and the Big
Right,
Ten
and the Big Ten
champions.
champions, and obviously
Yep.
I'm assuming that they all have pretty good records. I think,
Right.
you know, like let's say Oregon beat Penn State, but then Penn State still made the conference title game, or something like Oregon could end up being number four or something. But I got Penn State at number four. Um, at number five, I got Clemson. Um, and that's just because I think Clemson, there's more opportunity for losses there, even if they win the conference. I think they're still going to have 10 to 11-1 type of season, win the ACC, and I think that is going to put them at a pretty good spot in regards to the playoffs. Um, Number six, I got Oregon. Um, there's just so many new pieces. We do have the road trip to Penn State. I think if
Hmm.
we lose that, and Penn State does what they're supposed to do, and we miss out on the Big
Right.
Ten championship, I think that that's going to put us anywhere from like the 5 to 7 range in the seed. So
I got Oregon
I
at 6 as well. Who was your 5? I missed that.
5 was Clemson.
Okay.
So 5 Clemson, Oregon 6. At 7 I got Georgia, and
Okay.
that's because like obviously I didn't have them in the SEC title game, but I still think they should have a 10-2 type of season.
Right. And
You
that'll get
know,
them in the playoffs.
like I said before, I don't think that they're gonna have as much dominance, as the championship years, and they don't have as good of a roster, at least compared to everybody else. They just don't have, all these, superhuman players, compared to everybody else. But I think that, as an at-large team, I can trust, Georgia to do what they need to do and make the playoffs. Um, at 8, I got Notre Dame.
Okay.
They just announced who is it, C.J. Carr is their starting quarterback.
Yep.
We know what type of coach Marcus Freeman is. I mean, I can trust him even though they lost to Northern Illinois last year. They have had good moments when they needed to in the big games. By beating Georgia in that playoff game, I think that told us a lot about them. He did that fake punt in crunch time, like that. That just showed guts. So, I think I can trust Notre Dame to do what they need to do. I mean, they have a pretty they play a lot of good teams, but I think that they are clearly better than pretty much everybody on their schedule. So, I think that they're going to be one of the teams that makes the playoffs. And at 9, I got Utah. A little low because when it comes to these Big 12 teams, I think that a lot of them might have a few losses. We might see 8-4 team in the Big 12 title game. You
Yeah,
know
we
what I'm
might.
saying? So,
We might, for sure.
but I don't think Utah's going to be that low. And I think with like a 10-3 record before the final playoff ranking, I think that puts them not too low, not 10, 11, but I think you got to respect the conference win, at least a little bit, and that's why I don't have them at like 10, 11. And at 10, I got SMU. Like I had them in the ACC title game, and I think if they have a good enough record, if they go 10-3, 11-2, something like that, I think they'll be in there. Um, at 11, this was the hardest pick for me actually. This was the hardest pick for me actually, because at this spot I didn't know if I wanted to put a second Big 12 team, another ACC team, or another SEC team, because I felt like there's a bunch of teams that I can pick from, but I can't really trust. And those teams were Miami, LSU, South Carolina, Florida. I wasn't really thinking about Oklahoma or anything like that. Auburn, none of those other teams. It was really like South Carolina, LSU, Florida, and like another Big 12 team in my case would be Arizona State. And I ended up going with LSU. I think that they're a real talented team. I know I'm not the highest on Nussmeier, but I think I can trust them to have a better season than Florida and South Carolina. And that's really what it is. Like I don't really see South Carolina being in the mix as much as they were last year. I think Florida is just too much of a wild card. And then I got to factor in DJ Lagway's health. I mean, wasn't he just in a walking boot? Like, I know he'll be ready by week 1, but I just can't trust the health of him yet. So I had to put LSU. It's not really a confident pick, you know. And I don't think that the Big 12 is getting two teams in. Sorry to say, like I didn't trust. I just don't trust Miami, bro. Like I don't have Miami. Obviously, I'm at 11, so the last one has to be a G5. So I don't have Miami making the playoffs, bro. I feel like if you go 9-3 in that conference, I don't think you're gonna make it. And you could say the same thing about SMU. Like I'm not that confident in SMU honestly either. Like I feel like the ACC has the most variance, the most possible variance among the second team. I feel like you could kind of cement Clemson in as making the conference title game. But I feel like you got SMU, you got Miami, you even got like Louisville, Georgia Tech, teams like that that could be in the mix. So I can't really trust, a lot of people. So, I'm looking at Miami's schedule. They do play SMU, they play Notre Dame, um, and they play Florida. And they play in Louisville could be tricky. I know they play Louisville at home, but like I really don't trust this team. But at in the positive is they play. It looks like they play all their tough games at home, so they don't really have to go on the road anywhere with a crazy environment. I mean SMU, they go on the road for that, but I don't know if SMU really has a ruckus environment. No disrespect, but they play Notre Dame at home. Florida is at home. Um, there was somebody else in their schedule. Notre Dame, Florida. I mean, they go to Florida State, but they're gonna stink. And yeah, they play Louisville at home. So I mean, maybe I should swap that with SMU, and just completely flip my whole ACC prediction. Just put SMU there and put Miami in the ACC title game. But I don't trust Miami. I feel like they're gonna lose to Notre Dame, and I feel like they might even lose to SMU and Louisville. So, like I said, new alarm, Carson Beck, don't trust him. I feel like Florida might come in there and make some noise. And even though I say all Miami's games are at home, their environment is weak, bro. They can't get fans in that stadium. Maybe they'll get fans in there for the big teams, but we know how it is with Miami, bro. They don't have fans, so I don't really trust them, and that's why I don't have Miami in the playoffs. Same with South Carolina and Florida, unfortunately. And I have Florida, and like Florida is a weird team because I do have them beaten. Like I think they'll beat some good teams on their schedule, but I think they're still gonna end up being like an 8-4, 9-3, and miss the playoffs. Um, so I do think that Florida is gonna be a dangerous team week in week out, but I just don't
Yeah,
trust them, and I don't trust the health of their
I
quarterback
think
long term.
Florida goes 9-3. I think we're in with our schedule. I mean,
But
people were
nine and
calling our
three,
schedule the hardest schedule of all time last year. It's the same exact schedule.
like,
So,
and the thing about it is 9-3 doesn't guarantee. So you might get in with 9-3.
well, I think it depends on who the 9-3 is against. If it's a 9-3 and the three losses are all to Georgia, Texas, and LSU, we're not getting in. But
Yeah,
if we're 9-3 with wins over LSU, Georgia, with our losses being to Texas, on the road at Ole Miss, and I don't know,
but I think it
somebody else.
depends though. I think it depends. Like it's not even about how they look at your schedule and your resume. It's about how the rest of the country does. Like what if
Well, I think
the
we have
Big
the best
12?
resume. I think we have the hardest schedule. So who's going to have a harder schedule than us? Who's going to
Yeah,
have
but
it?
what if there's a big like the Big 12 loser? Like let's say a Big 12 title game loser, like in my case Utah, Arizona State. What if Arizona State is 11-2? You think they're putting them? You think they're putting a 9-3 team over that? You out your
I
mind. Because
I
they
think
didn't
it
even do that
depends.
last year.
No, they didn't do it, but I think they were close to doing it.
I don't think they was that close. Because
Maybe
there
not.
was 10-2 that didn't make it. Miami didn't make it. They was 10-2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the points that you're making. I do think it is just case by case. Like it really just depends on what the situation is going to be. It's kind of too hard to predict, like you
Like
mentioned.
I honestly, I think if South Carolina would have won that game against Clemson, or no, South Carolina did beat Clemson.
They did beat
If
Clemson,
South Carolina would have beat
Alabama.
LSU, yeah, or
They beat
Alabama,
LSU if they would have beat Alabama.
no, they lost to LSU.
I thought they kicked the field
Remember,
goal
remember,
against
Sellers
LSU.
got hurt. I'm
Who's
pretty sure.
didn't they storm the field against LSU? And they kicked the game winning field goal. Maybe not. Maybe it wasn't LSU.
I'm
Damn, what
pretty
game am I
sure
thinking
South
about?
Carolina. I'm about to look it up,
Yeah,
but
you could be right. Last season's a blur, but
yeah, like I just think
yeah,
that you know,
right,
in that scenario, like a 9-3 does not guarantee
right.
you know your team
Anything.
winning. Yeah, South Carolina did lose to LSU. They lost
Okay,
by
they did.
three.
Oh, they lost by 3. That's what
Yeah,
it was. I think they were getting ready to go storm the field, and then LSU kicked the game winning field goal. And I remember seeing like some videos about
yeah.
that. All right, who's your number 12? I don't think we've heard your G5.
No, we didn't hear my G5 pick. And my G5 pick is different than yours. I got Tulane going to the
Ooh, that was
college football
when we were
playoff.
talking earlier. I was gonna say Tulane is a third team outside of
Yeah,
Boise and UNLV that I
yeah,
truly
those are
think
my
has a
threes
shot
as well.
for
Like I
sure.
was looking at UNLV, Tulane, Boise. I think I can just trust Tulane. I know they kind of have a tough schedule though. They
Yeah,
do play Duke and Ole Miss in the non-con, which is kind of crazy, but so they might not even have that good of a record at the end. I mean, I don't know if they beat Duke. I think Duke is going to be a good team. I mean, they're probably not being Ole Miss. I mean, it was close. I think last year, the year before, they was close to being Ole Miss, but um, even then, like they might still be ranked higher dependent on how they play in those games. Like if they keep it close, they might respect that over a team like UNLV that don't play anybody and
right.
just and
Steamroll
wins.
everybody.
But I think Tulane. I can. And
Okay.
the thing about Tulane is I feel like I can trust them, especially with Retzlaff now at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think for the G5 level, they definitely got to upgrade over what they've had. Maybe even Darian Mensa. It's definitely an upgrade over T.J. Finley.
No, that's for sure. But is it update? Is it an upgrade over Darren Menzel?
Maybe not in the long term, but I
I
feel
didn't know
like
that. I didn't know they played against each other. By the way, that's a great. Thanks for telling me that. Duke
yeah,
Tulane. I'll be tuned in for sure.
yeah. So, um, I think maybe not. Yeah, like not in the long term, but I feel like over what Darian Mensa was last year, I feel like Claff is better. But yeah, and Duke does go to Tulane, which is kind of funny. So who knows? And they also played Northwestern, which I know it's a power team, but I feel like Tulane should win that. So who knows if they beat Northwestern, they could say, oh, we have a power 4 win, even if they lose to Duke and Ole Miss. Because you look at the rest of their schedule. I mean, South Alabama, Tulsa, East Carolina, Army, UTSA, Memphis, FAU, Temple, and Charlotte. Like they could win all those games. I mean, obviously we know UTSA is a solid program. Army's been solid lately. Um, there's somebody else. Oh yeah, Memphis. Memphis got probably got the most money out of all the G5. So maybe I should have picked them. But I feel like Tulane got a good shot at making the playoffs, man. Especially in a year where I feel like nobody's really talking about them. Everybody's still talking about Boise and UNLV, in the G5s. But I'm rocking with Tulane, man.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk about our first round of the playoffs. Steph, who do you have advancing to the quarterfinals?
All right. So,
You knock off four teams here. We're gonna knock our list from 12 to 8.
all right. So in the first game, um, Utah Notre Dame.
9
Well,
versus
I guess
8.
I'll go 5-12. I guess I'll go 5-12.
Okay. Yeah, 5 versus
Um,
12.
yeah, Clemson and Tulane. Obviously, I got Clemson winning
Clemson.
that.
Yep.
Um, I'll go 6 Oregon versus LSU. Come on, man. I don't trust them Tigers.
Come on, man.
Oregon moves up, man.
Okay.
Um,
9 versus 8 and 10 versus
8
7.
versus 9. Notre Dame, Utah. I'm going with Notre Dame. And then 7 versus 10, Georgia, SMU. I got Georgia.
All right. I'll let you go ahead and write all that down and get your next matchups in order. I'll say mine. My 9 versus 8 game would be either Oklahoma or South Carolina on the road at Ohio State. I'm going to take Ohio State against either of those two teams, although I think both of those two teams would give them a better matchup than Tennessee did last year. That's for sure. Then my 12 verse 5 is UNLV at Texas. As much as I love UNLV, the road ends there. Not much more to say about that. My 10 verse 7 would be Miami at Alabama. I think that would be a pretty interesting matchup, but I think Alabama wins out when it is all said and done. And then number 11, Arizona State at number 6, Oregon. An old school Pac 12 game in the first round of the playoffs. I think that would be spectacular. I would have Oregon advancing in a close one. Um, so, Steph, I think you have your 8 seed still available. That means that will put them against the 1 seed.
Yeah, it would be Ohio State and Notre Dame.
And
So I'm
talk
gonna
to me about
have
that matchup. Yeah.
I'm gonna have Ohio State winning that.
Okay.
I think they get it done.
And then your 7 seed versus your 2 seed.
7 seed and 2 seed, that would be Georgia, Texas. I'm gonna have Georgia winning that.
Okay. And then I don't know. Did you have an upset or no in the first round? What was your next matchup?
Um, in the first round,
In the second round, I'm saying 5 versus 4 would be the next matchup in the second round for you.
that would be Clemson versus Penn State, and that I don't know if that's really an upset regardless of who wins, but I
Right.
got Penn State winning that.
And then your 6 versus 3.
Now that would be Oregon versus Alabama. Sadly, I'm gonna have Alabama winning that.
Okay. My 8 versus 1 would be Ohio State versus Penn State. It'll be excellent Big Ten battle. And I'd have Penn State taking that game. Then 5 Texas at 4 Notre Dame, with Texas, or not at, but versus 4 Notre Dame. I'd have Texas taking that one. Um, then 7 Alabama versus number 2 Clemson. I would have Clemson edging that one out. And then in the matchup of the century, of the millennium, for my final game in the second round, I have a Road to Glory Super Bowl, Oregon versus Florida, where you know where I'm going to have to go, my Gators, to advance to the semifinals. Steph, talk to me about your semifinals. 4 teams left. Who are they? What are your picks?
So semifinal gonna be Ohio State, Penn State, um, and then my other semi is going to be um, Alabama and Texas.
Those are some juicy games. Who do you
Hmm
got
I'm gonna
winning
have
and advancing to the Natty?
I'm gonna have Ohio State beating Penn State, and I'm gonna have Texas beating Alabama
Okay, so Ohio State versus Texas in
in the
Steph's
Natty.
Natty. For me, my final four, my semifinals consist of a game Texas versus Penn State, which I'm gonna have Penn State win and advance to the Natty, and then Florida versus Clemson. And unfortunately, I do believe that will be the end of the road for my Go Gators, with Clemson advancing to the Natty to take on Penn State. Since I'm speaking, I'll just go ahead. I don't know who. I didn't pick it. I didn't pick a winner between these two. Like, I was sitting here for like 30 minutes earlier trying to figure out who I wanted to pick. I still don't know. That's my Natty. I'm gonna just go ahead and say that. I wish I could pick for
Pick a
you
winner.
guys.
You gotta pick a winner, man.
I really don't know. Like,
You
I
gotta pick a
don't
winner, bro.
know.
You gotta pick a winner.
I
Cause
think
I
that
feel the same way, but I'm gonna pick one.
uh, my first reaction is to go with Clemson. So I'm gonna go with Clemson. Clemson,
All right,
they
I got
capture the Natty.
I got Ohio State and Texas playing for the Natty. I got Texas winning the Natty, man.
Nice. No back to backs over here.
Yeah, I couldn't pick a back to back, man. I feel like that's just so. Yeah, I'm not picking a back to back.
So Texas is your winner. Clemson is my winner. I think either way, both of those scenarios sound super entertaining to watch and to enjoy. So it'll be exciting to see how this all plays out. We'll check back in on this at the end of the season. Um, Now, before we talk about week 0 and close out the show, Steph, do you want to throw out any names for Heisman? Do you think um, that highly of anybody going into the season? I think obviously a big name that probably first comes to both of our minds is Jeremiah Smith. Um, he's fantastic. I think if he wins the Heisman or doesn't win the Heisman, he's still probably the best player in college football, or he is the best player in college football right now. Um, outside of him, any other names?
I'm thinking about players that I feel like are going to put up a lot of stats.
Right.
Obviously, I got to bring up my quarterback, Dante Moore. I think he has an opportunity to, really do something special. Of course, you got to bring up Arch Manning. Um, other than that, I feel like a lot of these quarterbacks at teams that usually have these high-powered offenses, like there's a lot of new. So I don't know about Julian saying, I don't know about Ty Simpson or anything like that. It doesn't seem like there's any running back. I feel like maybe Jeremiah Love. I mean,
Yep.
he's the best running back in the country, so
Yes, he is.
he might get fed the ball a lot. We just haven't seen a running back winning in so long. It's hard to pick a running back. I gotta throw his name out there though, especially with a new quarterback. I feel like out of all these teams where you have a really good running back with a new quarterback, he's probably got the best shot. I'm trying not to be a homer. I'm not saying Makai Hughes is going to be a Heisman finalist or anything like that, but I feel like, that could also be an opportunity for a lot of stats. Um, so I would say, Arch Manning, Jeremiah Love, Dante Moore. Um, I don't know if I really trust anybody in the Big 12. Maybe Sam Levitt could be in the mix. Um, I don't really get into, Lenore Sellers or anything like that. In terms of Heisman, I think fun player to watch, one of my favorite guys to watch, but I just don't really think he's gonna have as good of a year in passing to be in the mix for the Heisman. And I don't think South Carolina has really good receivers. Um, I think DJ Lagway has an opportunity. Obviously Garrett Nussmeyer has an opportunity. Like these are like the thing about Florida LSU is they have all the potential in the world. We just cannot trust those teams under these current head coaches to do the job that needs to be done week in, week out. To have 10 and 2, 11 and 1, 12 and 0 type of records, um, and have players that are in the mix for the Heisman. But I think that, if you're the quarterback at LSU, you have that opportunity. We know they had talented players around them. Same with Florida. So I gotta say, Nussmeyer, DJ Lagway, I think that's pretty much where it ends. Like, I would say Sam Levin's more of a dark horse. Um, but in terms of guys I really think could do it, I would say it's like, Jeremiah Love, Archman, Dante Moore, Nussmeyer, DJ Lagway. I mean, is there anybody else that I'm missing?
Well, honestly, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you did say his name. I didn't hear you say it, but the guy that I would pick out of all those names, besides obviously DJ Lagway, Cade Klubnik. I think
Oh
he
yeah. First of all, let me just you got
uh,
Klubnik and you got Drew Aller at Penn
Alar.
State.
I,
It's just I'm
I
not
think
really a fan
I'm
of Aller, but yeah,
yeah,
Klubnik. First of all, Klubnik is going to have really good stats. So
yeah,
I'm my bad
yeah.
for forgetting about him, but
No,
yeah,
for
you
sure.
got to. I would say, like now that I remember, I would say the top two is probably Klubnik and then Love for me, because I don't really know how good Manning is going to be, but I feel like
Right.
he's going to have good stats. Like quarterbacks
Yeah,
in
he
Sark's
is.
offense have good stats. So
Yeah, I think Cade Klubnik right now is probably my favorite. I think Jeremiah Smith and and um and what's his face um Love. He's those are my top three. Again, quarterbacks, Arch Manning. I'm a little bit higher on Lenore Sellers than maybe you are. Those DJ Lagway, those are my next tier.
well, I like Lenore Sellers. It's
Right.
just for Heisman purposes, it takes so much to go right, and I just
Right.
don't really
I
think
think he's one of the
that.
few guys that could do like 3,000, 4,000 passing yards and then another 1,000 rushing yards. And if he rushes for, 10 touchdowns and throws for 20, like, I just think him being a dual threat is going to keep him in the conversation. But I agree. I don't know if again, the odds on favor right now currently is Arch Manning going to FanDuel Sportsbook. He's leading the way at plus 700. Cade Klubnik is second, tied with Garrett Nussmeyer at second for plus 900. Jeremiah Smith is at plus 1,200. And Lenore Sellers and Carson Beck are also around like the top 5 or 6 guys in odds right now. But yeah, I think the names that we mentioned all pretty much cover it. What about any defensive players? I mean, it's kind of it's hard to win it as a
Yeah,
defensive
not
player.
really. This
but
year, not really. I feel like if there's any opposition to win it, it would be like a Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver,
right,
or like, I mean, maybe Caleb Downs.
yeah, but
I mean,
again,
but you're just
yep,
not getting the stats. I feel like
agreed.
it takes, even though I feel like he's the best player, second best player in the country. Like
Yep.
quarterbacks put up a lot of stats, running backs maybe, but
All right, then let's switch over to week 0. It's time to make some game picks. It's crazy to think that we are here. It is time to watch some real college football. We have 5 games on the slate for us this weekend, starting at noon all the way till the final 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Um, we're only going to make one official prediction for this week, but we are going to, talk a little bit about all 5 of these games because most of them have some interesting storylines. As a reminder, last year, both me and Steph finished above 500 with our picks. I edged out Steph slightly with a record of 56 to 44, while Steph's record was 51 to 49. Um, so picked about 110 games, and again, going above 500. That's pretty solid, I'd say. So listen to our show, man. We're pretty good at this. But yeah, our first official pick of the year and our only pick of week 1 is going to be the kickoff game, the noon game on ESPN at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. We got some Big 12 action, America's Conference in Ireland. Iowa State, Kansas State, 22 versus 17. Kansas State is currently favored by 3 points. And as you guys know, from what I've been talking about all off season, I rate Iowa State. So this makes me scratch my head, and I'm taking Iowa State plus the points every day of the week. I think Iowa State probably wins this game by more than 3, to be honest. And they're given 3 points. Um, what are your first initial thoughts about this matchup?
I agree with you. I don't really trust Avery Johnson's passing. We know Iowa State is a solid program. You know, they've been in the mix for a Big 12 title game these past few years, so I think they get it done, man. I'm not really that high on Kansas State, honestly. I
Yeah,
think Iowa State wins.
neither am I. I think Kansas State is just kind of riding the hype of just being a pretty solid program. I think as the year continues, I think they're going to kind of level out into just a 500 team. I think we put them in the B or C tier, so expect them anywhere from 7 to 8 wins, maybe 6 wins if they're really bad, 9 if they're really good. But yeah, I expect and I rate Iowa State. I expect them to be again in that Big 12 championship game, and it starts here in week 0 for them at the Air Lingus College Football Classic. Should be a fun one regardless, though. I do think this will be a competitive game. The fact that Kansas State is even favored, maybe Vegas knows something we don't. You know what I mean? So I'll be tuned in for sure. Then after this game at 4 p.m., Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, my G5 champs UNLV take on Idaho State, where they're currently favored by 24.5 points. Again, we're not going to make an official pick for this. I couldn't tell you anything about Idaho State either. Um, but I'll tell you that I think UNLV wins this game, and it'll be good to see for this team to have its own little slot to give America a chance to really get a look at a team that eventually could make its way to the playoffs. So I'm excited to watch and get a first look at the new Dan Mullen version of UNLV. At 6:30 p.m. on Fox, we have a pretty compelling matchup at David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, Kansas, between Kansas and Fresno State. Kansas is currently favored by 13 points, and I think they should cover that. Now, obviously, last year's Kansas, the past couple years, have been a little bit of a disappointment from what we thought we could begin to start to expect from them. Now, obviously, we talk about this all the time when we mention Kansas. I think the key to Kansas' success over the past 5 years or so was Andy Kotelnicki, their offensive coordinator. A few years ago, he left to join Penn State. We all saw now what Penn State's offense is doing with Drew Allar. Not a surprise, not a shock. It shouldn't be if you guys know about him. He's a great coach. So to see Kansas, go in the opposite direction after losing that guy, it makes sense. Now, it's been a few years removed. I expect their offense, I expect their team to finally begin to recover from that, to have a new identity, and to start winning some damn games again. And I think it starts here with Fresno State. Now, Fresno State is no slouch. Another solid team in the Mountain West that will be competing. Are they Mountain West still, or are they technically Pac-12 now? I don't
I
know.
think the Pac-12 starts next year.
Next year? Okay, yeah. So a very formidable Mountain West foe. I'm not going to sit here and gloss over Fresno State at all. Every single year, they seem to have a solid team. But I think Kansas should have the talent and the size advantage. They're at home. They should get this win. Any thoughts on this one?
I agree with you.
Yeah. Um, we'll see. 7 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. We have a pretty compelling G5 game between two teams that I expect to really be a factor in this CUSA, Conference USA, at Hutchins Industry LT Smith Stadium in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We have Western Kentucky at home playing host to Sam Houston to open up conference play. Western Kentucky is currently favored by 10 points. I think that's quite a lot. I think Sam Houston is a team that is continuing to incline as they have joined FBS just a couple years ago. Um, sorry. Um, and yeah, I expect them to continue to be competitive. Um, when they were in the FCS, they were a very strong team, and I still think they have that identity and that DNA within that program. I just think they need to continue to catch up to the level of athlete that they now have to roster. Um, Western Kentucky, though, they're a staple in Conference USA for the past, who knows, however many years. I expect them to have a solid unit out there. I think they have a decent quarterback this year, too. I can't tell you who it is off the top of my head, but I feel like they brought in a transfer out the portal. Um, I don't know who it is. Anyways, any thoughts on this game?
Um, Sam Houston, Western Kentucky. I mean, not really. I mean,
Yeah,
especially
G5.
nowadays when it comes to the transfer portal, like a lot of these G5 teams are, even if they pop for 1 year, it's hard to repeat. So,
And then closing us out, our nightcap, 7:30 p.m. CBS Paramount Plus. Pretty compelling game as Stanford travels to Honolulu, Hawaii, to take on the Rainbow Warriors, where Hawaii is actually a 2.5 point favorite. Now, Stanford is such an interesting team this year. I mean, we all know their story. Fired their coach in like March, so they didn't even have a coach until April. Andrew Luck comes in. He hires Frank Reich to come be the interim head coach. I don't even know if Frank Reich has ever coached college football before. Hasn't coached since he got fired from the Colts. So Stanford's a bit of an enigma here. I don't know, but I feel like I trust Andrew Luck and his vision for that program. Obviously, we talk about Stanford and all the complications and all the obstacles that they have to truly being a program that can compete like they once did. And I'm not saying that I do think maybe Andrew Luck will get them back to that point, but I do at least think he'll get them in the right direction and have them being a solid football school again. Um, because it is sad. I think when Stanford is a good program, it is it is good for college football in general. When all these West Coast schools are good, it's better for college football because it makes it a more national game. So I would like to see Stanford at least rise a little bit more. Hawaii as a 2.5 point favorite. I'll tell you guys, I use Hawaii um, in dynasty mode. They are ass. Uh, So I'm honestly a little bit shocked that they're favorited here. But I guess usually when two teams are pretty even, they just give the home team a field goal advantage. That's how Vegas usually works. So that's what it is, a field goal here. We're not really making picks for it, so it doesn't matter. But I'm interested to see this game, to be honest. I think um, outside of that first game, this is probably the other game that really I would want to tune in the most. I mentioned Fresno State, Kansas, and Sam Houston, Western Kentucky should be solid games, but I'm interested about this game. So, 5 games, big Power Four, top 25 matchup to open up the year and to open up Big 12 play between Iowa State and Kansas State. Um, but other than that, a nice little appetizer to get us ready and get us prepared for week 1. It's crazy, man. I'm excited. Do you have a clown of the week?
Honestly, I do.
I think I might too. Let me see if I save the tweet. Yes, yes. And I wonder if we have the same. If we have the same, because mine clown of the week is, I know you're gonna love this. I know you're gonna love it if you haven't seen it. So let's play the music. It's everyone's favorite segment. It's clown of the week. It's everyone's favorite segment. It is clown of the week. Steph, do you want to start? Should I start?
Go ahead, man.
All right. Clown of the week goes to none other than your current Fun Belt Dynasty team, the former university, the former city that
I know what
I
you about to
called
say.
home, that I lived in, that I rested my head in, and you know that I sometimes consider myself an honorary fan of, and I'm just disappointed to be an honorary anything of, and that's the Auburn Tigers. Today it was announced um, that Auburn decided to just wake up this morning and claim 4 more national titles, um, which would raise their grand total to 9. Now, Steph, and not Steph, but um, me and Steph have had conversations in the past about this and about these teams and their claim natties, and we've talked about this many times on the podcast before. So if you've been around, you've probably heard us have this conversation. But the thing that gets me the most about this is that usually when teams claim natties, they claim them from like literally the prehistoric times, from when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth. Like, for example, Auburn, they did claim 1910. They also claimed 1914 and 1958. Um, Today, I don't
This was
even.
the 1914 season.
Yes, the 1910 season, the 1914 season, and the 1958 season, right? But this is where the true clownery begins, Steph. This is where it really gets good, brother. These clowns also claimed, and I put this in air quotes, the 2004 season. Now, let me just do some research here.
Didn't they go undefeated at least in that year?
We're we're about to find out.
They
Um,
did, because that was the team that didn't get to go to the BCS, even though they went undefeated.
yeah, USC defeated Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl to go ahead and capture that championship. But yes, that is the year that Auburn went 13-0. Guys, you're just the new UCF now. We went undefeated. We're champions. That is not how it works. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
I am sorry. And the fact that you think you could just claim a natty where there was a literal national championship game played and crowned in recent, this is 2004. This is less than 25 years ago.
Yeah, we had the BCS back then, so
It's like, again, it is similar to UCF trying to claim a championship when there was literally a champion. Like, this is just clown behavior. You're a clown for trying to claim a championship back in 1910. Because who even cares about who won the Natty in 1910? Like, literally, it does not matter. That was not football. Like, it was football, but that was not football. That was not the same sport that is played right now. They've been playing the sport that we play right now for maybe 50 years, maybe, if I'm being generous. It is a whole totally different sport. And to sit here and try to claim natties from these different generations and different eras is just clown behavior. Auburn, you are the clown of the week. Win a real damn natty if you want to talk about natties.
Yeah, I really just don't. I don't get this because I mean I'm pretty sure there was a system back then, even before the actual national championship game, to determine national champions. And I don't know how you can retroactively claim anything. I mean, it's just like, when something
Can't.
happens and they want to penalize the school for doing something, they vacate wins. Like to me, that's just as much of a clown move because the game already happened. Now, if you want to determine that a team was cheating at that time, then determine that and penalize the people that were involved. But don't sit here and try to retroactively change records for whatever reason, whether it's good or bad. And claiming 1914 national champions, like that's just nonsense. Like I don't understand how you can claim something that happened years ago and 100 years ago at that. And, we talked about the national championship thing. We know that personally, I don't count any so-called national champion if you didn't play in a game that was meant to decide that. So back then, before the BCS was invented, I don't think there was any national champion because the nation was not competing for a championship. I mean, that's what a national champion is, right? It's the nation, all the teams in the nation coming together and figuring out a way to compete for a championship. Like obviously the BCS flawed. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that because there was instances of like a 2004 Auburn of a team that should have been in there that didn't make it. But I mean, the same thing with the 14 playoff where Florida State should have been in there and didn't make it. But at the end of the day, there was still champions crowned those years. Okay, so you don't like it. It is what it is. I mean, that's what happened, and I think it just showed a flaw in the system. But that's what happened. You can't retroactively say, "Oh, we're going to be national champions." No, you didn't play in a championship game. And when you want to talk about all those so-called national champions from way back when, this is another reason why I don't really count any of them because I'm pretty sure Minnesota so-called won a national championship, but their record was like 5-4, something crazy like that. They had some record that wasn't even that good, but for some reason they're national champions, and I don't get it. So before the BCS was invented, I don't count any of that stuff. Not saying that those teams weren't good, not saying that they weren't successful. Okay, you win a Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, whatever. Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, yeah, you won that. That was great. And that was and as a country, we might be able to say, okay, this team was the best team that year. But I can't call you a champion of something you didn't play for the championship of. It doesn't make any sense. I think that was just the way college sports were back then. Yeah, it's okay to say you don't
Right.
have a national championship. I don't see how you could sit there and play the season out and then decide the champion with a bunch of sports writers. That sounds logical to you? No, decide it on the field. Decide it on the field. And it's a shame that back then it took them so long to even create a system where we can say, okay, these are the best teams, they're clearly the best. They're gonna play each other and decide the champion. But I don't care what the sports writers think, what their vote is. Personally, I don't. That's not how champions are crowned. They're crowned
I don't
by
care.
having the best compete against the best, and the winner comes out on top. That's it. So you
Got to
can't
beat the
sit.
best to be
So
the best.
exactly. So don't sit there and try to claim something. from 100 years ago. And you know what? There's another reason why I don't count.
Over 100 years, bro. 1910 and
Well, then here's why,
1914. We're in
and this is why I
2025.
definitely don't count that. I don't count anything before black people was even allowed to go to the
Right.
college.
What the hell are
So
you like?
until y'all even had black, because we all know how many people is in the NFL, 70% black. So all the best players are black for the most part. And y'all
That's
did
real.
y'all had zero black people on them teams back then and want to talk about national championship?
Hell no.
No, get the hell out of
No.
here. So I don't want to hear nothing about that, about no 1910 Auburn. I'm better than every 1910 Auburn football player
You
right
are.
now.
You are.
Right now at this age.
We can make a team of me, you, and all of our listeners, and probably go
And
win some
smack
games.
them with leather helmets on too. I'm elbowing people in the face and all that. The hell, we could play by
Oh
their rules
man.
back then.
Oh man. Yeah, Auburn.
The
I don't
hell,
know. I don't know why they woke up and decided today was the day to do this, but
clowns, bro. You make yourself look like a damn clown, man.
just like especially with them being so ass recently, like this is just like
I
y'all are
know,
some losers, and now y'all are just grasping at straws to just.
literally.
But we're at like
But
this
this
is
is what I be
pathetic.
trying to tell you, man. You be trying to talk about this SEC stuff. I be trying to tell y'all the SEC is soft, man. Y'all can't handle no type of criticism. Y'all can't handle no type of anything. Not winning. Go out there and win something. Y'all wanna be a champion. Okay, don't try to claim something from 100 years ago before black people was even allowed to go to them colleges.
For black people even allowed to do anything,
Like
shit, let
it was
alone go to college.
1914. What are we even talking about?
Half the players probably own slaves. Let's be real.
Well, not at that time, but I'm pretty sure slavery ended before people started playing
No,
football.
it
But
didn't.
anyways, well, and if you really want to get into some history, I mean, slavery technically ended, but there was a lot of people that was still, because there was a lot of remote areas where the government couldn't really reach,
Jim
and there
Crow.
was people still living under the same system way after slavery. You want to get into some history, but that's for another day and another conversation. Um, yeah, man, Auburn is a freaking clown, man. Clown behavior. But I did have an entry for this week, clown of the week, and this is another clown organization, and they also wear blue. I'm noticing a trend. There's a lot of blue with these clownery organizations. But this organization is the Indianapolis Colts, man.
Okay.
Um, naming Daniel Jones the starter.
Oh, brother.
I mean, do we even have to get into why this is a clown
Can I say
situation?
something? Can I say something
Go
real quick?
ahead, man.
Daniel
I mean,
Jones is
these
on
are
my
your guys too, by the way.
Daniel
Both these
Jones is on my
quarterbacks are your
fantasy team,
guys.
man. So this is
Who's on
great
your
for me.
fantasy team?
Daniel Jones is on my fantasy team, so this
Is
is
there
great for
50
me.
people in your league?
There's 12,
You
so
couldn't get a better quarterback than Daniel
I
Jones?
do, I do, I do have a better quarterback than Daniel Jones,
Oh
but
my
he is
goodness.
one of my quarterbacks. So honestly, this is Gator on Gator crime, but hey, I hope Danny Dimes stays the starter all year. Fuck it, gives
All
me
right, so
another
I have a
option.
question because I never played fantasy before. Like, what if your quarterback just don't play?
So usually on your roster, multiple quarterbacks.
Oh,
So
okay. So
I have
you
Drake
could
May,
start.
I have
Yeah,
Trevor
yeah.
Lawrence, and I have Daniel Jones. Those are my three
Okay. So you
quarterbacks.
could
So
start one of
you can
them,
start one
whoever's
of them.
playing.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right,
Um,
that makes sense.
but no,
But
no,
yeah,
that's
that's.
absolutely clownery. I'm right with you, brother.
I
And
mean,
and
that's
and
your
it sucks.
Florida
Yeah,
legend.
it sucks for Anthony Richardson, but I think especially to him, don't overreact. Keep your head down. You're 23 years old. I'm not. There's no. I'm not gonna sit here and try to put it in any cop outs, make any excuses. Fact of the matter is, you need to be better quarterback if you want a starting spot in this league. And to be honest, that can still be a reality for Anthony Richardson. He's still supremely talented. He's still very young. So his whole career is ahead of him. He just needs to get in the film room. He needs to get in the weight room. He needs to get on that practice field, and he needs to improve. Um, but it's just crazy that you're not better than Daniel Jones. So that definitely makes me scratch my head and like, But I believe in AR. I don't think it's all over for him. I just think he needs to maybe being the backup is what he needed. I think that's what a lot of people were saying to begin with. He came out of school too early. He
I
needed
was
more
I was
development.
I was screaming,
Yeah.
screaming that he needed to play 2 more years of college football, not even another year. I was like, I don't understand what these draft people see. I get the physical talent, but it doesn't matter if you can't play quarterback. Playing quarterback is more than having the physical gifts. The physical gifts help, obviously, but you need to have the mind. You need to be able to make good decisions. You need to be able to
Yep.
read a defense. You need to be able to learn a playbook. You need to be able to understand the game. There's so much that goes on in the mind of a quarterback. Like I just don't get it. Even if you're the best coach in the history of football, you can't just coach everybody. Like the player has to bring something. You get what I'm saying? They have to be able to learn.
Yep.
They have to be able to
Exactly.
retain information. They have to
Exactly.
put in the effort. And honestly, like I just don't understand like how he even got drafted. Because again, like I don't really like taking these risks, especially when you're talking about paying people $30 million on these rookie contracts and things like that for these high draft picks. Like you're paying a bunch of money, and you will set your organization back a decade if you don't make the right decision at quarterback. So I did not get it. I didn't get it
And
at the
that's a
time. You know what the problem is? The problem is a lot of these teams don't want to be the one that looks stupid when one of these quarterbacks goes off. But more often than not, you look stupid by drafting them. You look dumb more times than not by drafting these players that are not ready to play in the NFL. Okay? And I was even saying it back when he was in college. I'm like,
you
this
were.
dude
Yeah, you
needs
were.
2 more years of playing football.
Yep.
Because he could
You were
not
right.
throw. I saw the athletic ability, but he could not throw. And Florida to me was underwhelming when he was there. You saw the flashes, but they were not a successful football team.
No.
Just be honest. And even in the NFL so far, I mean, this has to be the first quarterback I've ever seen in any level of football. I'm talking about Pee Wee. I've never seen a player do this. Mighty Mites. I've never seen a quarterback sub themselves out of a game because they was tired. I'm talking about children. I'm talking about people, children crying on the field. I've never seen somebody sub themselves out of a game because they was tired. I've seen kids get ran over, trucks, smacked. I've never seen somebody sub themselves out of a game because they was tired. A quarterback? What are we doing? It don't matter how tired you are. You're the damn quarterback. You don't come out of the game. You supposed to be the leader. You supposed to be the one everybody looks to when the game is tight, when the situation is tough, when things aren't going your way. They're supposed to look at you. A lot of people might not be built for that, but that's what comes with the position. You're the face of the organization. You get what I'm saying? It don't matter how old you are. You're supposed to be the leader. I can't trust somebody that's going to attack themselves out of a game because they tired. Are you kidding me? This is the goddamn NFL, man. And like I never see somebody do that in freaking Pop Warner, bro. I've been like playing football as a 7-year-old kid. I've never seen somebody do that on any team. Watching other kids play football, other teams, other towns, high school, college, at any level, D1, D2, D3, JUCO. I've never seen a quarterback sub themselves out of a game. So for this announcement, honestly, it's not all that surprising because obviously he hasn't been that great on the field, and he's probably not doing what he's supposed to do off the field if it comes to this. Because Daniel Jones, really, we have to watch Daniel Jones play football. Come on, bro.
Like you said, it's not surprising, but again, Daniel Jones is a horrible quarterback. So let's be real. At some point this year, the coach is probably going to look over on the sideline and call
Absolutely.
AR's number. So he needs to not take this as a knock to his confidence. If anything, he needs to take this as and use it as motivation. He needs to stay locked in, get in his playbook, and be ready for that next opportunity. Because, like I said, with Daniel Jones, that next opportunity is coming, and you don't want to make yourself look like a fool again. So, um, but yeah, I agree pretty much with everything you said. So we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. The Colts, it's like the Browns. You know who the Browns are starting at quarterback this year?
Flacco, right?
Flacco, Joe Flacco. In the big year of 2025, the Browns paid Deshaun Watson 240 million guaranteed dollars to
Well,
start
they're a clown organization too.
Joe Flacco. But yeah, it just made me think of it. But okay, we will close out the show here then. That will do it for our playoff predictions and our week 0 preview. Now that the season has officially begun, we will be back usually twice a week again with a recap episode to recap week 0, and then we'll have a preview episode to preview week 1. Maybe because week 0 is so small, we'll make it into one episode this week. But usually, as we start to get more games and more stuff to talk about, we will split it up. Make sure you follow us at the Pigskin Live on Instagram for all of our updates, posts, um, things of that nature, and subscribe here on this platform, Apple Podcast or Spotify, so you guys can get the notifications every single time that we drop an episode. We also stream this live on YouTube. We don't currently use any cameras or anything like that. Maybe as the season begins, we might. But if you just want to listen to it live on YouTube, you could follow our YouTube channel at the Pigskin Live and turn notifications on so that every time that we do go live, you can listen to this podcast as we record it rather than listening to it, a couple days later or whenever we decide to post. So, yeah. Stefan, anything else you want to say or get in before we get out of here?
I think that's it, man. Like you said, once week 1 gets here, we're gonna be going twice a week. It's gonna be a lot to talk about during the season. A lot more clownery to point out.
Yeah, for sure. That'll
Stuff
be
stuff
fun.
is gonna happen, man. I'm excited. Season's here. This weekend, it almost don't even feel real. So, I just gotta sit down on Saturday and turn my TV on and then be like, okay, there's football on.
Yeah, order some food and enjoy. All right. We will catch you guys next week. Until then, enjoy your week 0 of football. We'll catch you guys. Peace.